It's no secret that men nowadays are suffering more than ever. Suicide rates have gone back to the highest that we've seen in recorded years, and something has got to change. We really want to spend today deep diving all of the issues that are affecting men and what we can do as men to actually combat them and find a way to escape the trap of our own mental health issues. Not looking good. It's a sad day when you always seem to find a news story almost daily and in a local community that somebody has unfortunately lost their own life or is seriously struggling with their own mental health, whether it's due to drug abuse, whether it's due to almost like a self-destruction that seems to take place, or at the worst of it all, a suicide that seems to happen so close to home that really brings this home truth back to your front door of how damaging mental health can be, and making sure that we are actively staying on top of it. And for me, everybody sort of talks about it and says that we need to do better and that we need to talk. But unfortunately, most people aren't offering any actual prescription to the problem and discussing what can be done, because a lot of people just say, oh, just talk, or if you're feeling bad, just talk. But 9 times out of 10, I think as men, we don't generally want to burden people with our problems. I think 9 times out of 10, we would like to try and escape that hole ourselves. And being what I can imagine to be a very lonely place where you feel like a burden to everyone, the last thing that you want to do is speak about it. And so what I want to try and talk about today is what I found to work for me personally. Like whenever I've felt that I'm having trouble or if I'm feeling a bit down. And for me, it always starts with purpose. For me, I always find that having something where you have a set goal or a set destination, it does help get you through the journey. Because I find most people nowadays, and it's sad, you'll probably find this as well, is when you actually speak to people and say, what do you do? Or what are you passionate about? Or what do you enjoy? The answers are always so empty. You know, they'll always say, I just like going on holiday with my mates. I like going out with my mates. I like shopping. And I like going on holiday. And I'm like, well, you might as well say you like breathing air, because everybody likes doing that. What makes you you? What makes you tick? What do you enjoy? What are you passionate about? What is your goal? What is your purpose in life? And unfortunately, too few people nowadays can literally give you an answer to that question. What is your purpose in life? What are you here to do? What are you trying to achieve? And the answer is just, I don't know.
Like holidays.
Very sad.
No, and it is. And I think what I found the absolute peak of it being at its worst, and I don't know the stats, but I know someone personally who, you know, it happened to, and they did take their own life. And it was during COVID, where no one could really see anyone, no one could really speak to their friends, and no one could talk about how they felt day to day, and they'd lost their purpose because they couldn't go into work and they couldn't do the things that they enjoyed, or play sport, or do, you know, granted you could get to go for a walk for half an hour within your surrounding area. But I think emphasising that point, taking away people's purpose or things they enjoy, or speaking to friends and family about when they are going through tough times, that was completely removed. And it just so happens that that was at the peak of the problem.
Yeah, it was a sad thing. And again, it does go to show, almost like, to get real life data on it, what you'd almost kind of want to do is create this weird parallel universe where you can almost just restrict certain freedoms and restrict certain things and boost certain parts of it, and you've got this almost complete control of a case study where you can say, right, well, we're going to remove these freedoms and see how people get on. We're going to increase this and see how it actually impacts the mental health side. Fortunately for me, I think that the reality is no matter what you do on an external level, it's very individual. So again, it's very down. So two people can handle the same problem in different ways because we're all wired differently. So some people will have come from a drug addicted background with family having issues with, let's just say, alcohol, where both parents might have been alcoholics and there was a very tough upbringing centered around that. And that can lead some people to move towards alcoholism and drink more. And it can, for example, Donald Trump is very similar to this. Gordon Ramsay with drugs is another one, where they lose a close family member or something happens within their family that then completely detracts them away. So you can either lean into it or you can completely pull away from it. So same problem, same stimulus, same experience within reason, but completely different outcomes. So I always think you have to look within. And as I said, most people don't have a purpose. So for me as a man, I think genuinely that finding a purpose is probably the first and foremost most important thing that you will do in life. And how do you actually find yourself? How do you actually find your purpose? Well, for me, I think it always starts with stopping and asking yourself a question, which is like, what do you want out of life? And not rushing that question. Take weeks, months to mull it over, write down some answers, see what sticks, revisit it. Because most people, like, life is short. Life is so short. And if you don't know what you actually want out of life, then really day to day, you're just wandering around aimlessly without any clue of what you actually want to be doing. And you can all find yourself then wasting time by doing a job you hate, spending time with people you don't like, buying things you don't need because you're trying to fill this void, when the reality is, as soon as you've found your purpose and you know what you want out of life, everything becomes clearer. And so that's always the first thing that I think is most important, is finding out what do you actually want from life? What do you want to achieve?
Yeah, and I think to find that, it's experiencing as much as you can in as short a time as you can, but it doesn't need to be a short time. But, you know, we enjoyed playing lots of different sport. You know, again, you might just have a knack for something, you might really enjoy it. And again, you found, oh my God, I really enjoy playing tennis or badminton or whatever. And then you've got a bit of a purpose there that you can then really start to extrapolate and drill into. And it's something you really enjoy.
Well, the questions that, if you can't answer the question of what do you want out of life, answer some of the following questions. It's like, what are you good at? What are you bad at? What do you enjoy? What do you hate? And remember, there are two different things. You can be good at something and not like doing it. And equally, you can be really bad at something, but you can love it, like you with sports.
I'm really good.
No, obviously. So ask yourself those questions. Then that's from an extrinsic sort of activity style. Then look within and find out a bit more about yourself as a person. So you can do something called a DISC test, like a DISC review. It's like a big personality test where it will give you, basically answer some questions. It's not a horoscope, so it's not about whether the moons are aligned on Venus or some shit. It's very simply a series of quite in-depth questions that basically give you a character personality type. So you can do a test that gives you a result on your personality type. So D is for dominant, I is for influential, S is for steadfast, and C is for conscientious. And basically it will give you a breakdown of what each ones of those are. So like I'm high D, which high dominant with like a touch of influence and influential, which basically means that I'm a bit of a bossy twat, putting it bluntly. I like to get my way. I like it to be done my way. I'm very action and sort of task oriented. I'm very quick to basically want to just get things done. and I'll do it my way and just lead from the front and just take over. Now, that can help because obviously when it comes to leading a business, if I haven't got an element of dominant gene within me, then somebody questions my opinion or my authority, or I question, more importantly, myself, then I can't be a good leader if I don't have conviction in my thoughts and my feelings about making decisions. So it works well for me, and I love what I do, and I find great purpose and satisfaction in doing the job I do because it falls perfectly within who I am as a person. But if I was a high D and I was in a position where I had to follow a set of systems, follow a set of instructions, work for somebody else, and by all accounts be restricted in what I can do and how I can do it. So, for example, working in the police force where I have to follow a set of systems and there is a right way of doing things and you can't veer off the path. This is the guidelines. This is what you have to do. I'd be going, I don't want to do it that way.
So someone in the public said, "You didn't read me my rights."
Yeah.
Probably take the fuck off.
It just wouldn't
Get in
be
the
good.
cuffs.
So again, my personality type as a policeman, bad move. But within what I do, great. And that's, again, I go back to finding your purpose, finding what you're good at. And then when you can analyze yourself and be honest with yourself about who you are, what you enjoy, what you don't enjoy, what your passions are, and what you're good at, bad at, etc., and then you can align it with the job that you're doing, again, it becomes very important, and then everything becomes easier in life, and the decisions that you make become easier because you can limit certain choices. They just become immediately off the table. So, for example, if I'm very extroverted, very confident, and I like dealing with people, there's no point in me going to a role in IT where I'm going to be spending a lot of time behind a computer, not speaking to other people, and not being able to integrate. Whereas if I was quite a quiet introvert that quite liked my own space and my own company, be a great role for me. But one would be miserable in that role compared to the other. So it's all about being very introspective.
I mean, again, and on top of the disc, you can even, if you don't want to even do that, but it doesn't take long, so there should be no reason. But, you can ask other people, friends and family, how do you think I am? What do you think my temperament is? Or what do you think I'm good at? Or what, just asking other people, they give you a very honest feedback if you ask the right people about what they think you're good at or what they think your temperament is or what that you're good at. It being the main thing, you're going to get some real honest answers, especially if you give permission for them to do that.
Definitely. You can do a 360-degree character review. You can just send them a form. I think it's called a 360-degree character review, and they will answer it. And we're going to do it with our team, so it'd be interesting to see what they say about us. They'll probably just comment, asshole.
Very interesting.
But that's a very important thing as well, to ask people around you. But that gets me on to the next point, which is possibly, for me, going back to really intrinsically men, our mental health, where we succeed, where we find purpose, is fundamentally, and I truly believe this, is the two core tenets of protecting and providing. I don't see as that's ever changed. Now, society has changed around us, and for the love of God, it's definitely moved negatively in some ways and positively in others. Yeah. But I think what we have moved away from too much is the amount of development that has happened in the society around us in the last 20 years. We have not allowed ourselves as people, i.e. the brains within just the average human, the standard human, the brains have not caught up to the stimulus and the society around us. And that's caused massive decline in mental health, because 100 years ago, or even like 80 years ago, World War II ended, and you find yourself then in a position where people were coming off the back of a huge major change to the world. People were on rations. People didn't have social media. People didn't have phones. People had to speak to each other. People had to communicate with the neighbours, with the village, with the locals. For entertainment, you'd go out. You wouldn't stay in. And there was a community that was there and involved. And now everybody's got their face stuck into a phone, don't know who their neighbours are, don't speak to their friends, don't go out and socialise, don't spend time outdoors. And all of these things, our brains haven't been able to keep up with that sudden shift in our lifestyles. And so because of that, I think we've had a massive, massive decline in social media, in our own social well-being. And so, again, I go back to the two core tenets of male being, which is to protect and to provide. And so, touching on one of those points, it's providing. And most men, and do you know what? I genuinely feel I do feel sorry for women in this instance, because men have completely forgotten that we are the ones that should be providing for our families and protecting our families. And that means women in general. And so we've always been brought up with a traditional mindset of it's our job to achieve and adhere to those two core tenets. But then when it comes to paying for things like dates and going out and holding door open, being chivalrous and paying for your friends and helping people and being that person that somebody can go to rely on and being able to have the resources to help others. Whereas now men are very much of this mindset where it's like, well, it should be 50-50. Why should I pay for her? Why should I do that? Why should I do this? It's not for me to do that. And I think it's very self-destructive rather than looking and asking the question of how can I pay for that? How can I increase my resources? How can I increase my position to be able to pay for these things? It's more just a case of shirking responsibility.
Yeah, it starts with education, really, and lots of things have changed there. It used to be that at schools, women had learned a lot more about, caring and the family and bearing children, and men learnt a lot more about things and providing and building and all that sort of stuff, which is naturally the things that we're best at, like you're saying. But I think we're smarter than nature and that we've evolved and transcended into something that we're not. We're still, advanced baboons, I suppose, or chimps. And it's, really to get back to the fundamentals of what we are here for and the purpose, like you're saying, providing. We're all going to find ourselves a lot happier. Women are going to be happier when they can look after children, and men are going to be happier providing.
Well, I think everybody benefits from having a strong male presence in society, not this bullshit toxic masculinity that's now become popular. I don't think there is anything such as toxic masculinity. I think you get bad men. You've always had bad men, whether you go back 100 years, 1,000 years, or 2,000. I'm sure Genghis Khan would have been considered a bad man, as well as Adolf Hitler, as well as Jeffrey Dahmer. Like, all these people are bad men. They don't suffer from toxic masculinity. It's just another buzzword that's been created to just shit on people and form some type of movement, which is really what's happened. But I think men need to understand that we are the ones that should be bearing the weight on our shoulders and being able to be resourceful enough to be able to provide for those around us. And so the question you need to be asking yourself is, as a man, how can you become useful and needed in society or in your friend group, or at least within your family, where you are relied on? And I think at that point, you immediately offset a lot of the mental health trauma or the mental health suffering, because people need you.
100%. And you can see that, we can say what we like about Andrew Tate, but I think the rise of someone like that has now been a catalyst of just such mental health decline for men. So he's now rose to prominence, but he's also got his universities and all these things where he tries to teach men, how to be men and provide. And that was his general thesis at one point. And I know it's been washed and it's not all ideal, but the general consensus, that's pretty much what he's trying to do, what he says he's trying to do. because so many people pay for his services, you know there's a lot of people out there that do want that. They do want to be able to provide, but they just need to know how to do it and not just be told that they're evil or toxic or whatever it might be. And actually, they want to get to a point where they do provide, and that's why he's managed to make so much money, Andrew Tate, because I suppose he teaches people how to do that one way or another.
Well, the reality is he wouldn't be popular if his message didn't resonate. So it's only the fact that people are aligning with his message, which tells you enough, and it's not just a few, it's a lot of people,
Millions, yeah.
which tells you that what he's saying is hitting home for a lot of people. So if that's the case, we have to be able to understand that a percentage of what he's saying is really correct and accurate and making people feel something. And so again, as a man, you've got to be very careful of who you are listening to, because sometimes you get people on the internet that say stuff to be purposely provocative to try and get views and to get attention. And unfortunately, what ends up happening then off the back of it is you fall into this cult mentality where you blindly follow someone immediately based off of a judgment, and then you listen to everything they say. And that doesn't mean that, one person can't be right about all things. So take a pragmatic approach. And if you like someone, listen to them, understand what they're saying, but don't blindly listen and believe everything that comes out of their mouth, because there's a guarantee that some of what they say is bullshit. Fact. Even I would admit that about myself. Some of the things that come out of my mouth are utter trash. You pull me up on stuff, and I've said things. I went to Nando's the other week, and I just genuinely, I don't realise I'm doing it sometimes. I blame myself. I was a bit hangry, and we'd gone in. It was finishing a meeting. Been out all day, and I just wanted a quick little cheeky Nando's, as you do. And this guy, be it bless him, they'd just opened up, but he was taking his time. And he was saying, we go and sit over here. And I was like, mate, I've been here before. I'm going to go and sit over there. Here's the menu. I'll sort it. I don't need that. I'll come back up in a second. And he was just a bit stunned at me and my...
That's one word for it.
quite sort of aggressive, boisterous behaviour. And then you pulled me up. What did you say?
I was just like, well, there was that. And then when we ordered the food, he was like, I'm just having that. And it was very funny. And I said, bloody hell, Ty. I was like, you are a bit sharp sometimes, these people. And,
I hadn't realised until you'd said it. And obviously I was very rude. And in the end, I'd sort of left a nice tip, and I'd changed my attitude immediately. And it's important that people around you are correcting you and pointing out when you are stepping foot wrong, rather than allowing you to carry on with that sort of bullshit behaviour. But in regards to Andrew Tate, again, too many people are just blindly following and listening to everything he says, and then everyone's too much of a yes man nowadays and says, no, he says everything's great. Yeah, Andrew Tate's brilliant. Yeah, he says this, he's definitely right. And look, loads of what he says is accurate on, but a load of what he says is also nonsense. And you need the balance of people calling you out and saying, well, this bit's right, get behind that. This bit is clickbaiting. So even if it might be elements of it's truth, he's saying this for this reason, and just being a bit more wise to it rather than just, again, being blind.
I think it's, for me as well, I mean, I've even practiced it sometimes where I've listened to people of the complete opposite end of the spectrum, and you get a completely different opinion on things because you're looking at Andrew Tate one end, and then you're looking at, someone else, I can't even remember the person's name. Greta Thunberg, the other side, and you're going, well, you can take a pragmatic approach and say, well, I do agree with some of what's been said there, and I do agree a bit of what's been said there, and kind of come to a logical consensus. I mean, actually, they were having a bit of a thing at one point. I don't even remember that one, because she was popping off at him at Lamborghinis and things, wasn't she? And then he got locked up, wasn't it, I think? Oh dear, I think she had him quite well there.
Yeah, it was right.
It was the
after,
pizza box, wasn't it?
The pizza
I think.
Box, yeah.
And it was, oh dear, funny.
Greta getting her own back. A swift revenge from Greta. But look, same thing applies though. It's one where just be careful of who you're listening to and who you're taking information from, and just try and form your own thoughts. That's one of the big ones. But remember, again, protect and provide. Who are you currently providing for? Who are you currently protecting? And you're never too you're never too young or old to be able to look after people around you. You know, you see kids that have to adapt because they've had a really tough upbringing and they might lose a parent or both parents, or something sort of horrible is happening in their day to day, and they have to step up and almost grow up and become an adult too soon. Happened to our dad, happened to our mom. She lost her dad at the age of 11, and she almost had to then find a way to replace that person in her life. So we have to be adaptable. But it comes as sort of no surprise with the state of the country at the minute that suicide is back on an all-time high. 2023 saw the record number of suicides since 1999 and remains the record high now. And mostly for 45 to 54-year-olds, which surprised me a little bit. It's the worst sort of demographic. But what makes you think that that's the age where people seem to unfortunately lose hope?
I think they've worked a good amount of their life. They've felt like they've supported probably what they have. And then it's got to a stage where they've been told that, you know, they're worthless, they're not doing this, and they felt like that they've provided for quite a significant period of time. And then that in also combination to getting older in general, where it's that kind of age where you think, you're getting old. I mean, I know I hit 30 not that long ago. But I think when you start to hit 50, some people can feel like if they've not fully had their purpose, but they've provided but not really got anywhere, you could see that being the age that people think it's not working and give up.
I agree, and I think the biggest take home for me at that demographic and looking at it and thinking about it has been, again, I go back to protect and provide. If you've gone through your life and you set yourself, everybody as a kid dreams and has big goals and aspirations, and as children, young boys, we dream of being astronauts, footballers, pilots, soldiers, firemen, rich celebrities or rappers, singers, YouTubers.
I wanted to be a rapper, yeah.
You look like it. And it's one of those things where those dreams seem to fade and die, or seem to be almost drawn out of us and just forgotten, buried and left. And I think what happens is people take account of their lives at 45 and 54, between those ages. And I think they probably would say that they are not happy with the life that they've lived. And like you said, by that point, they have passed the point of change because they now have families, homes, a lot of dependents and things like that they haven't got the freedom now to be able to change. And one of the biggest ones for me that really hit home for this was David Goggins was talking about how he was in a current position of hopelessness and depression in his life. He was a fat pest controller. He was involved with exterminating certain pests within homes, whether it's like rodents or bugs or whatever it might be. And he was severely overweight and life was going nowhere. And he just had this epiphany where he sort of thought to himself that one day I'll die, and one day, if I'm a good person, I'll go to heaven. And that if he could have a look back on his own life, would he be impressed or would he be proud of what he's achieved? And as a fat pest controller, he thought in his mind that that wasn't enough. And so he decided that to change, he would join the Navy SEALs. And lo and behold, after a lot of pain, suffering and training and failure, he made it. And now he's one of the hardest mofos on planet Earth. And if you don't know David Goggins, get to know. Who's going to carry the boat, son? He's out there doing bits. He's a crazy guy. And if you don't know his stuff, he's got some really good books out there that I really strongly suggest you listen to. He's got a couple now, really good books, and he's a real bastion for male protected not only his family but his country via serving through the elite special forces, and then now continues to provide for people through knowledge, motivation, wisdom, his family, through finances. And I can imagine if you ask him, does he suffer from his mental health? I'd guarantee that he is as headstrong as they come.
Yeah, and I think I've just thought more about the age ranges as well, and then it made me think of that typical. It's got a name, hasn't it? The midlife crisis, and I think that is what it is, and that's why it's those ages as well, because it is the midlife stereotypical crisis that men go through when it's like, I haven't achieved what I wanted to achieve, and sometimes it's like it's just injecting purpose into your life. So even silly things, just getting up and having a run just every morning, something like that can massively change your perspective on things. Just get into the good habits, not bad habits, as opposed to, maybe not as much at that age, but spending all your time just swiping on Tinder and things like that and scrolling on Instagram. And it's just these such negative dopamine hits that you just don't want. It's like being in a casino, pulling the wheel and just standing in front of the machine hoping for a win. Just that's all you're going to get from scrolling through Instagram. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I've deleted it, because there's no benefit for me having it. It's just I don't really like using my time on something like that that's only going to create negativity.
Well, the first thing is, like you said, is taking action, doing the small things. And Chris Williamson said this really nicely. He was like, thinking your way out of depression is like snorting your way out of a cocaine addiction. It's just not going to happen. And it's really important that you can just recognise that sometimes, first of all, it's about taking some action, some small action, and doing something that pushes your body, because for some reason, it's really strange that a healthy mind, a healthy body obviously follows a healthy mind, but I think the body has to go first. I think for me, whenever I've noticed that I'm having a bad day, and trust me, I've had a few recently, going to do some physical exercise is the quickest way to get over any form of creeping depression or negative thoughts. And I crashed my car the other day, and not going to get into the details.
Put a picture up if you want.
I'll stick a photo up. It was not good. It wasn't. All the airbags went off. It wasn't the worst crash that you'll see, but trust me, the car is in a sorry state.
Yeah, you got the elephant hand to go with it.
Yeah, hand's all battered and bruised. It's like 3 sizes bigger than it should be. But I'm here. I'm working. I'm not feeling sorry for myself. I'm not blaming anyone else. Nobody was injured or hurt. Thank God. It wasn't dangerous or reckless driving. It's just an accident on the road. And again, nobody was injured or hurt. So for me, again, I could have buried my head in the sand. I could be upset and sad that such a nice car has been destroyed, and that there's going to be a cost element to it and all these things. But rather than wallowing on it, and again, I go back to this being resourceful, I use it as an opportunity to grow, learn, take account, and do better, rather than burying my head in the sand and being sad. Now, I realise, as I said again at the start, everyone can look at things differently, and the same situation can fall on different people's laps and be handled very differently. But I certainly think that when bad things happen, as it does to all of us, the first thing that we should be doing is taking some small action. And for me, it's always a case of just doing something physical and keeping your mind occupied.
Well, I've just had a thought, and really I think the people that are the most headstrong, and I'm going to use something we've learned in slightly different context, but I think if people are headstrong, they kind of get a tap on the shoulder and they deal with a tap, like by doing these small things to help them get over that hiccup in their life. Whereas someone who's not as headstrong goes from the tap to the slap to the bang to the wallop, and that's kind of how we've learnt it in a different format. But I think if that car crash happened, that you would call that the tap, And then if the next day you were like, oh my God, this is just horrendous, it's going to get worse, and then you kind of slapping yourself.
I'd say the car crash again. 30. Put the photo back on. It was a bit of a bang and a wallop. To be honest,
you went straight to a bang. But then you go into a bang, and then you each day, if you don't sort the problem, you get in further and further into the hole that you're digging yourself. And if before it gets to a big deep hole, you can just get it when it's just something small, and you can deal with it then and there quickly, you're going to be far better than if you just let things fester.
Yeah, and of course, lingering on problems, and unfortunately, this is again the reality of solving problems. A problem 9 times out of 10 doesn't fix itself. If I leave my car to sit, it will not automatically repair itself. It's not.
Will it not?
It's not a transformer. If it was Optimus Prime I was driving about, and then probably would somehow find a way to fix itself. It isn't. It will remain, and it will rust and get worse over time. But if it gets fixed and it gets looked at and it gets handled properly, then the problem can get better and it can be solved. But if you let things linger and you let them grow, like you said, over time, a small problem can snowball into something much, much worse. So again, it's about taking immediate action. When you notice things that are starting to creep up on you in life and you're starting to have bad things happen or bad thoughts, again, it's about the quicker you take an action. So I like your analogy of where you're going with it. It's an initial stimulus, which is like a small tap on the shoulder, which then can turn into a bit of a slap round the face if you don't do anything about it, which can really then turn into a bang, which, you go from a slap to a haymaker from Mike Tyson. And then if you leave it even more, then that haymaker from Tyson turns into a bulldozer, into a nasty accident or a car crash. So so very important that you take notice of these things happen in your life. And again, I know there's that cliche of just speak to someone, but speak to yourself as much as anybody, and then try and ask yourself, like we said in the video, ask yourself the question: what do you want out of life? What is the purpose that you've got in life? Who are you currently protecting? Who are you currently providing? Who are you looking after? Who needs you in your life? Are you doing anything physical? Are you pushing your body? Are you making sure that your body is well looked after? It's like a car. What you put in is what you get out. If you're putting shit into your body and you're not exercising, you're going to feel like shit. You're going to look like shit, which makes you feel even worse. So all these things, very important. Men's mental health, very important. And I think for us, it's a case of New Year's is coming up. This might go out just around 2026 January. So Happy New Year, everybody. I just think it's time for us all as men to take account, do better, stop blaming everybody else, look for some self-accountability. And if you are struggling, speak to people around you, but speak to yourself. Remember that no one can truly help you until you're ready to help yourself. So I hope this episode has been really helpful, a bit more insightful, and good luck to you in 2026. Look forward to going on a new year of Brothers in Business with you, and looking forward to the journey ahead. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to subscribe, like and comment below, and we'll see you in the next video.